Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Fantasy Pros Dynasty Football Podcast. I'm Ryan Wormeli, joined by Fitzmaurice and Scott Bogman. We're talking Dynasty rookie values today. We just finished taping a Superflex rookie mock draft that went 5 rounds deep, so I hope everybody checks that out if you haven't already. And we wanted to kind of reconvene and just talk about some of the guys that we think are the best values in drafts right now. You can look at sort of general rankings. You can look at early ADP. It's still a little early for that because a lot of rookie drafts don't start until a week after the NFL draft. But however you guys want to be defining the best rookie values, that could be in the first round, they could be in the 5th round, they could be wherever. The guys that we think are just going too low or ranked too low and that you're going to be pretty interested in targeting in your respective rookie drafts. We're going to go 5 to 1, so ending with the best value from each of you. Fitz, let's kick things off with your number 5.
It's Taylen Green, the quarterback prospect from the Cleveland Browns. And when you get into the 4th and 5th rounds of Dynasty rookie drafts, the hit rate is pretty bad. Even in years with good draft classes, we all know this is not a good rookie class. Worm, you were talking about the 5-round mock we just did. The 5th round, it was hard to find a pick that didn't make you want to throw up in your mouth a little bit, to be honest. So, the hit rate on 4th and 5th rounders in this rookie class is probably going to be even worse than usual. So when you get into the 4th or 5th, swing from the heels, man. Take a home run swing. Pick players who, if they're going to hit, could hit in a really big way. The odds are definitely not in favor of things panning out in the NFL for Arkansas quarterback Taylen Green. Browns took him with the first pick of the 6th round. He's got 3 quarterbacks in front of him, Shedeur Sanders, Deshaun Watson, Dylan Gabriel. Obviously, there are no sure things in that group, but the Browns are also in play to draft a quarterback next year when the QB class is expected to be much better. Taylen Green is he's really intriguing as a dart throw late in rookie draft. 6'6", 227, ran a 4.36 at the combine and had a vertical jump of 43.5 inches. And Taylen Green started 46 games in college. So, Ty Simpson started 14? Taylen Green, 22 starts at Boise State, 24 at Arkansas, an SEC school. He is raw as a passer. Taylen Green's passing stats, not great. His mechanics are kind of a mess, but he has an NFL caliber arm, like plenty of arm strength. And reportedly, he is a good kid and a hard worker, wants to get better, and the raw tools are just insane. Taylen Green ran for 2,400 yards and 35 touchdowns over his 4 college seasons. And remember, sack yardage counts against quarterbacks' rushing yardage in college, so could have been more like 2,800 yards. If he ever gets a shot to play quarterback in the NFL, he's going to deliver big-time rushing value. Passing, I don't know, but we know how running quarterbacks are a cheat code in fantasy. I think Taylen Green is worth a shot late in rookie drafts.
What do you think is the right spot for him when you say late in rookie drafts? Because this year it gets late pretty early. He's ranked in the mid-40s in ECR. What do you think about where his true value should be?
Yeah, doing the Yogi Berra worm. It does get late early here. So I think anywhere like the first couple picks of the 4th round or beyond.
He's behind in ECR right now. Cole Payton, Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier are all ahead of him. They're all in a similar range, but the upside for Taylen Green is higher than all of them, obviously.
Cole Payton, defensible, taking him over. I've got Cole Payton ranked 1 spot higher. I'd take him over Klubnik or Nuss.
Yeah. Bogman, what do you think about Taylen Green?
Yeah, I think this is the exact type of pick in this class where he just represents a crazy amount of upside because of his athleticism. And the downside is he turns into Taysom Hill. So I think he's a pretty decent pick for what this class is, specifically that he's going behind all those other quarterbacks. So he's a dart throw. He's a lottery ticket, however you want to call him, all that. But the upside is definitely there for Taylen Green.
Who's your number 5, Boggs?
I'm going to go with Justin Joly, the tight end coming out of NC State and ending up with the Denver Broncos. I feel like there's real opportunity for targets in Denver. This guy was all ACC, led NC State in receptions. In 2025, he led UConn before transferring to NC State in receptions in 2023. The only time he didn't lead his collegiate team in receptions was when Casey Concepcion was his teammate in 2024, and he led Joly by 10. But Joly, he had 15 touchdowns in college. He's got a nose for the end zone. His drops went from 6 to 3 to 1 from 23 to 25. He's a 66% contested catch guy as well. So I just feel like there's an opportunity here. Evan Ingram's a little bit long in the tooth at this point. He was a much better fit in Jacksonville than he has been in Denver so far. And the other guys are Adam Troutman, who blocks, and Nate Adkins, who is not as good as Joly. Joly played over 50% of his snaps in the slot in college as well. So this is a receiving tight end with a good quarterback and good players around him. So it's probably his fantasy value is probably going to be tied to touchdowns, but I think if he gets this role, he can score touchdowns. So I'm excited to see what Joly has.
I like
Fitz just
Joly.
took him in a draft we did. Great pick, Fitzy. One pick in front of me, you jerk.
I like Joly. I think he's a good. He's not just a good selection on draft day. He's a good selection for this type of conversation, where I do think because he went in, was the mid 5th round, late 5th round, wherever he went in the 5th round, just felt later than I think some people expected. But this is a guy who is I think a pretty good receiver, and I think there's an opportunity in Denver. We get scared off of Denver a lot. I've said this before earlier this week. That I want to give a chance to Davis Webb and see what the play calling looks like in Denver now that Sean Payton is it is still his offense, but he is no longer calling plays, at least to start the season. So I want to give a chance to this offense, maybe more than I have in the past, with Payton kind of scaring me off with the way he treats fantasy managers. Obviously, Fitz, given that you just drafted Joly in a real draft, I assume you like the pick here.
I do, and I got him at 404, and I tend to think he will go later than that in most people's rookie drafts. Just Joly is athletic, really good ball skills, and I don't think it's a stretch to think that he could maybe wind up as the joker, that coveted role in Sean Payton's offense. So I think he's a pretty worthwhile flyer. And again, things really thin out starting in about the late 3rd round in this year's rookie draft.
He's 39th in the Superflex. And by the way, when I reference this, I'm going to always be referencing Superflex this episode, but he's 39th in ECR right now. So we'll see how that continues to adjust. Today's show is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet, the official sportsbook partner of the Orlando Magic. And speaking of the Magic, they're back in the playoffs where the lights are brighter, the pressure is higher, and every possession can change a series. And on Hard Rock Bet, every night is your shot to score a major bucket. With win-or-go-home energy on the hardwood, I love building same-game parlays. You might like the hot hand to drop 30, the big man to control the glass with the double-double, and the point guard to dish out 5 assists. However you draw it up, Hard Rock Bet gives you tons of ways to stack your picks into a same-game parlay built for the playoffs. If you're ever late to tip-off, don't worry. Hard Rock Bet lets you live bet all game long from the first bucket to the final buzzer. Try your first bet on Hard Rock Bet today, and you can score $150 in bonus bets if you win. Just place a $5 bet, and if it hits, you get not only your winnings, but an extra $150 in bonus bets. The welcome offer is just the tip. Hard Rock Bet has new promos daily, so open up the app right now to see what promo you've got today. And sure, Hard Rock Bet is Florida's only legal sportsbook, but you don't have to be in Florida to join the party. Hard Rock Bet is also live in Arizona, Ohio, New Jersey, Indiana, Tennessee, Virginia, Illinois, Colorado, and Michigan, with more states on the way. Download the Hard Rock Bet app today, and let's get the party started. Fitz, who is your number 4 best dynasty rookie value right now?
Bryce Lance, New Orleans Saints wide receiver via North Dakota State. Again, in a thin draft, as this year's is, take big swings in the back half of the draft. And Lance is probably going to be a late 3rd rounder, I would guess, in most rookie drafts, or a 2nd rounder if you're playing in a dynasty league with our colleague Derek Brown. But Bryce Lance,
early 2nd rounder if you're in a dynasty league with Derek Brown.
But Bryce Lance is another home run swing. It's the size-speed combo. That's what's so appealing here. Bryce Lance is 6'3", 204 pounds with 4.34 speed. He made the Bruce Feldman freaks list when he was in college. Played in an FCS school, again, North Dakota State. So we do have to take the college stats with a grain of salt. But Bryce Lance had more than 1,000 yards each of the last 2 seasons. In 2024, he had 17 touchdown catches in 16 games. In 2025, only 8 touchdown catches, but he averaged 21.2 yards per catch and had 8 catches of 40 or more yards. And Lance landed in a pretty good spot in New Orleans. He'll obviously be behind Chris Olave and Jordan Tyson, but the Saints don't have much at receiver after those two. So Got a quarterback, Tyler Shuck, who is not afraid to challenge defenses downfield. His average depth of throw last year was 8.3 yards, which is a pretty robust number. And Bryce Lance was a 4th-round pick. So, like, that's not great draft capital. And I know the hit rate on small school receivers chosen on day 3 is pretty minuscule, but I like the idea of taking a shot on a receiver with exceptional size and speed and guy who made a ton of big plays in college.
I thought Bogman made a really good point on our Superflex mock draft show, which was that not only is there an opportunity behind the top 2 guys in New Orleans, but those 2 guys both have pretty extensive injury histories as well. So maybe even an opportunity beyond just the 3rd target in this passing game. Lance, for you, Bogman should be going where in drafts?
I have Lance closer to the end of the 2nd, maybe early 3rd, somewhere in that range. I have him at, I think, pick 22 here in Superflex. So yes, I mean, a very good risk player. Like we said, he doesn't have, immediate access to the field from the jump. He's going to have to beat Vele, but Tyson and Olave both have extensive injury histories. If you want to take a deep shot, I think he already has the Rashid Shaheed role in this offense right now. So yeah, I mean, I think this is a really good pick for this class and a guy that has more value than seems on the surface.
35th overall in ECR right now. Bogman, you're up at number 4.
Give me Devin Claiborne. I know we don't like the 6th-round draft capital of a guy like Devin Claiborne, but I do not care. Get him in the building with this running back room and watch him roll, because Aaron Jones is, old and maybe has a year or 2 left. And I think Jordan Mason is a jag. I love this fit on a pass-heavy team. Claiborne is a guy that's caught 50 passes the last 2 seasons. And until last year, when they had the horrific quarterback play, these running backs in Minnesota were routinely facing less than 20% of 8 men in the box, according to Next Gen Stats. So you give a guy like Claiborne a lane to run in, and he will beat you with speed. He's a kick returner, punt returner as well, so he has chops there to see the field early. And I think that he will push Mason 4 snaps pretty quickly here, even as a 6th-round pick. And maybe Kyler isn't as good as he used to be, or even a great quarterback in relation to the rest of the quarterbacks in the NFL. But I can tell you he's way better than what they had last year with J.J. McCarthy, Carson Wentz, and Max Brosmer, who is not an NFL-level player. So I think the offense is going to get better. Obviously, the receiving options are still really good here. They did exercise that option for Jordan Addison moving forward. But I think there's an opportunity here for him to win the starting job by the end of the year. And I think he has definitely a chance to do that. Nothing's guaranteed when you're picked in the 6th round, but I think Claiborne makes his team and walks away with his job by the end of the year.
I wonder where he's going to end up. Right now, he's about a mid-3rd round pick in ECR. I wonder where he's going to end up being in more draft. Like, I feel like he's going to start sneaking into the back end of the 2nd rounds, because there's just so few options that, like, even if in a vacuum when we're ranking, there are tight ends and receivers that we have ranked higher, there's going to be running back needy teams late 2nd who are like, there's nobody else that we can even conceive of a path to providing value this year. So we just got to take the swing now, because he's not going to be there in the late 3rd. I wouldn't be surprised if his ADP ends up more like a late 2nd than it is in in the mid 3rd, like right now, which is kind of makes your case of why I think he's a good value right now. Fitz, what do you think about Claiborne? What are the odds you see of him contributing in some capacity this year?
I wouldn't be surprised if, as Bogman said, like at one point he becomes maybe the most valuable back in Minnesota. Like, I know this is a dynasty show, but I could see Claiborne being the kind of guy who some week people are putting $40 bids in redraft leagues. Like he's got so much juice. He makes really sharp cuts. I love that he went to a team that plays on kind of a fast track with the Vikings. Like that's good, rather than, going to some slow grass field. I like him a lot. I've got him ranked 23rd overall in Superflex. I just took him, I think, at 212 in our mock draft, our Superflex mock draft. So I agree with you, Worm. I think he could go back half of the 2nd round. I think he's a better player than Mike Washington, And I think he's got more opportunity in Minnesota than Mike Washington has in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I agree totally with the opportunity. All right, Fitz, number 3 best dynasty rookie value for you.
Oh, I'll pander to you, Worm. It's Elijah Sarratt of the Baltimore Ravens. A little disappointing that Sarratt wasn't drafted on day 2 and fell into day 3. And I think the Raiders should have picked him at the top of round 4. Like, why not give,
Agreed.
Why not give Mendoza a receiver he's very comfortable with? But here nor there, I think some fantasy managers might not know how to assess Sarratt because there are no real superlatives to his game. Like, he's 6'2", 207, so good size, but not huge. Ran a 4.53 at his pro day, so not fast, not slow. Route running is good, but he's not breaking defenders' ankles out there. Not magical after the catch. All Elijah Sarratt does is go out there and catch a bunch of footballs and score a bunch of touchdowns. He had 44 TDs over 4 college seasons, 15 in 16 games last year at Indiana. And my buddy Drew Davenport of Football Guys, Indiana graduate. And a couple of weeks ago on Twitter, Drew sort of wondered aloud why Omar Cooper had so much more draft steam than Elijah Sarratt. And if you watched Indiana football all season, you'd understand what Drew was talking about because it was kind of a 1A and 1B dynamic. Like, Cooper had 69 catches, 937 yards, 13 touchdowns. Sarratt, 65 catches, 830 yards, 15 touchdowns. So 4 fewer catches, 2 more touchdowns, about 100 fewer yards. And Sarratt was just not at all overshadowed by a first-round draft pick with Cooper. And, oh, by the way, the number 3 receiver was Charlie Becker, who's 6'4" and has 4.4 speed. Dane Brugler just did a 2027.
Gonna get drafted higher than both those guys next year.
Yeah, we were just talking about this off air. Dane Brugler did a 2027 first-round mock for The Athletic and had Charlie Becker going 11th. So Sarratt had some tough target competition last year, still very heavily involved. I think the best way to describe Sarratt's game is that he's just really quarterback friendly. I love that he went to the Ravens. I know the Ravens are run heavy, but I think Lamar Jackson is absolutely going to love Sarratt. And I think Sarratt is going to outperform Jacoby Lane, even though the Ravens took Lane in the 3rd round and Sarratt in the 4th.
I totally agree with everything you just said, Fitz. I loved the pick for the Ravens as a team. There are other situations where I would have been more excited about Sarratt from a fantasy dynasty perspective, but this is the type of receiver that Lamar really has not had to throw to. He has not had the ball winner. I mean, Sarratt and Lane were the 2 highest in terms of like the contested catch guys in this entire class, and the Ravens got both of them. Clearly, that is something they are targeting for Lamar to sort of differentiate from the Rashad Batemans and the Zay Flowers of the world that they already have. I think Sarratt fits in really nicely with those other 2. I think there's a world where he usurps Rashad Bateman. Like, Bateman just has consistently not been able to stay on the field. He has not found that real rhythm with Lamar. I think there's a world where Sarratt is the second, not most targeted player on the offense, but the second most targeted wide receiver on the offense this year. I'm not saying I would bet a whole lot of money on that, but I think it's possible. And everybody keeps talking about this is the most obvious candidate to move into the inside, power slot position. And a lot of times when, like sometimes when you talk about that for a player, like again, Matt Harmon, who we reference a lot because he's so good with receivers, talked about how he wanted that for Keon Coleman. And then the Bills were like, well, we didn't really see him that way. The Ravens are saying they see Sarratt this way. They have already talked about moving him inside as this sort of power slot. And I think he's a perfect fit there. I think he's the replacement in the passing game for Isaiah Likely. And I think he can really like blossom into more. The comp that I just keep coming back to is a very poor man's, because this player is amazing, but a very poor man's Keenan Allen, just stylistically and what he can bring to the offense. I think that and the other thing too that I would say is like the Ravens were like, this guy was just by far the highest on our board. Like we weren't necessarily planning to take 2 receivers, but he was just like, we thought he should have been a day 2 pick basically. And he was still sitting there in the middle of round 4. We had to take him. So the draft capital, like, I'm not worried about the fact that he fell to round 4. They viewed him in a similar vein to Lane. I think he fits better for fantasy and in this offense than Lane does. And I've said it like 3 times already this week. When they double dip at a position, the second guy is often better in the history of the Ravens. So yeah, I think Sarratt is a great pick. Now he's going in ECR right now. He is a late second. He's 23rd overall. it's not like we want to push him up into the first or anything, but I think he belongs more as like a mid-second than he does, late second, early third. He went into third in our draft that we're already completing right now. That feels crazy to me. I think like mid-second is the spot for him, Fitz.
I agree. And, I would rather have Elijah Sarratt than Dejon Stribling, who the 49ers took at the top of the second round. So Sarratt went, 60-some picks later. And, yeah, to me, like Sarratt's
more than 60 picks later. He went 75 picks later or something like that.
Sarratt or Lance, Fitzy?
Sarratt.
Okay, I would take Lance, but I think that's a fair fight.
Yeah, Lance, I mean, Lance is by far the better athlete, so maybe he has the bigger ceiling, but I just think Surratt's the better football player.
It's good for the landing spot. I mean, a lot of targets are gone, right? Likely, I know he missed a lot of time last year, but he's gone. Hopkins is gone. So it's Tez Walker as that third wide receiver right now. And
he's so different than Tez and Bateman. Like, he's a different type of receiver for sure. And Jacoby Lane. Like, they don't have another guy like him, really.
I can't remember the exact number, but the Athletic Football Show, I think, was talking about this. And I think Sarratt is the first receiver they've drafted over, I want to say 6'1", since Miles Boykin. Boykin is the only other guy in the entire Lamar era that they have drafted at this height. And obviously Boykin didn't end up being that good, but that was several years ago at this point. So like, this is not a guy they've had. Again, Declan Doyle's there now. It's a different looking offense. Besides Flowers, there's nobody that is like guaranteed to get a much bigger target share. He can be used in the red zone. Like if Mark Andrews takes a step back, I think Surratt's a great call. Where would you draft him, Bogman? Like I said, he's ECR 23 right now.
Yeah, I have him behind the group of running backs. So like, I think I have him at 27. So
okay, so you're a little lower.
I'm a little lower, but I think that's where probably I think I'm closer to where he's going to end up after the draft capital.
I asked Fitz this on another show this week, so I'll ask you on this show, Bogman, Nicholas Singleton or Elijah Sarratt?
Give me Singleton because I think just the path to playing time next season is so clear, right? Spears and Pollard are both free agents, and I think if Singleton is routinely getting on the field, they'll just give him the job. So Singleton for me, but I think that's a fair fight for sure.
All right, that's one of my favorite players, and Fitz is. Bogman, let's go to one of your favorite receivers here for your number 3 best value.
Well, let's just hammer this home. And originally, I didn't have him on the sheet, but Fitzy kind of prodded me, and it has to be Skyler Bell here. I love the options that Buffalo now has by going out and getting DJ Moore. Right, this is really the answer for who gets the biggest boost. I think it's Josh Allen because he gets a crazy boost with them bringing DJ Moore. And Skyler Bell here. And I think that it's definitely going to be Moore and Shakir on the field constantly. Who is that third wide receiver? Well, right now it's Joshua Palmer, and they tried to move him outside. He played way more inside in LA. Hasn't really worked out in Buffalo. Keon Coleman is the other guy. They see him as a primary perimeter guy. Skyler Bell can play both inside and outside. He played way more outside in college and had a ton of receptions last year. It was over, he was 104. Is that correct? He had last season 102 on 141 targets. So lots of catches for Skyler Bell. We heard the GM, I don't like this for his draft stock, but the GM compared him to Jamar Chase, which is insane. He's not Jamar Chase, but he is a really good wideout with a lot of opportunity. I think he's better than Coleman right now. I think he's better than Palmer right now. I think he can be better than Shakir quickly. And I think he can be a primary weapon for Josh Allen moving forward. So I think he's going a little bit too late in drafts, and I think this landing spot is good for him. It hurts in competition, right? There's not an easy path to playing time. I would say Sarratt has a much easier path to playing time than Skyler Bell does. But I just think Skyler Bell is a really good prospect, and I love this landing spot with a premier quarterback.
So what you're saying is it was a steal when I got him with the 309 in our league.
Yes.
That's what I'm
Great
hearing.
Work. Great work for him.
Where does he belong in a vacuum?
I have him at 18 in my rankings overall.
So that's like pretty aggressive. He's 32nd in ECR, so closer to where I got him. That I'm actually surprised by that. Although I maybe I'm surprised by that because of how much I've talked to you, Bogman, in the last few months.
And that's my bad. I had him at 15, not 18. So
okay,
I had him still on this list. My initial board, I had him behind Fields of Brazel, but I moved him ahead of those guys. PPR.
Gotcha.
Gonna have way more catches.
Yeah. So this is like a guy that is very undervalued then in your eyes. Yeah, I mean, like a player that you liked a lot gets paired with as good a quarterback as you can. There's some opportunity in the receiving room. I think it makes a lot of sense. Fitz, where are you at in terms of ranking Skyler Bell right now?
I've got him 21 overall in Superflex. So I'm kind of with you guys here. Really like everything about him. The production, the run after the catch ability, over 100 catches at UConn last year. I know it's not like top Power 5 competition, but he's a really good player. And how can we not like the landing spot getting paired up with Josh Allen? The only thing that I didn't love about the player team match is that it seems like the skill set is not unlike that of Khalil Shakir. Like,
and he signed long term.
Yeah, so they're kind of redundant talents, but like you can have two guys like that on the field at the same time. So yeah, I like this. I think Skyler Bell's a good player. He should be going earlier than the mid-third or wherever he's typically going.
Reminder to everybody to join our Fantasy Pros Discord community, chat with other fans, and get access to exclusive AMAs that wind up on our podcast feed. Here's what our current schedule looks like. Myself and Fitz at 5 Eastern on the first Tuesday of every month, and then Bogman and Fitz at 5 Eastern on the third Tuesday of every month. Come get your questions answered and be on the show at fantasypros.com/chat. Fitz, who is your number 2 value?
Wide receiver Germie Bernard of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's from Alabama. Going into the draft, everyone had a clear top 6 at receiver in Dynasty. It was Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, and Mekhi Lemon in the top tier in some order, and then Casey Concepcion, Omar Cooper, and Denzel Boston in some order. There wasn't a clear 7. Turned out that Dejon Stribling was the 6th receiver drafted ahead of Denzel Boston. That was a pretty unexpected pick, but, you know, that's John Lynch, who has a history of weird and bad day 2 picks at the skill positions. But the first receiver picked after Denzel Boston was Germie Bernard, who went to the Steelers, Scott Bogman Steelers, with the 15th pick of the second round. And the scouting report on Bernard is that he's just a really good all-around football player. Can play inside or outside. Pretty good size and speed, 6'1", 206, ran a 4.48 at the combine. Germie Bernard is a pretty good route runner, has good ball skills, and really good after the catch. Like throughout his college career, he forced missed tackles at an 84th percentile rate. Hat tip to J.J. Zacharyson for that stat. And Alabama looked for ways to get the ball into Bernard's hands. He had 18 rushing attempts last season, 2 touchdown runs to go along with the 7 TD catches. So I've been in 2 rookie drafts so far, including the one with you guys. Bernard went 17th overall to Bogman in our draft. In my other draft, I got Bernard 20th overall. And I was actually going to take him right in front of Bogman in our draft. But, you know, to me, Germie Bernard and Antonio Williams are side by side. I've actually got Bernard ranked 1 spot higher, but I wanted to spread my bets around. And I have Bernard ranked 13th overall in Superflex, 12th in 1 QB. So I get the sense that interest in Bernard is just sort of tepid. Like, I think he's a good value. And I actually think he could deliver some first-year value because Bernard's going to be a short area receiver for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers does not want to stand in the pocket and make downfield throws anymore. He wants to get the ball out quickly and not get hit. Average depth of throw last year was a career low 6 yards. So Bernard could get a lot of catch and run opportunities right off the bat in Pittsburgh.
Does he feel like maybe sort of the second round version of what we saw from Emeka Egbuka last year, like a player that comes in and the kind of obvious pecking order is third on the, you know, in the receiving room, but a player that we just believe is just very good. Like he maybe isn't going to wow you in a bunch of areas, but is just kind of good at everything and like kind of surprises quickly. And again, maybe not on the same level as Egbuka's like first month last year, but it's like I said, sort of the second round version of that where he's third on the depth chart, but he's just good at everything. The quarterback's going to like him a lot and he kind of outperforms that ranking. Fitz.
Yeah, it's an interesting comp for him and not totally off base. I mean, Egbuka came from wide receiver university at Ohio State and obviously had like tougher competition. So I think he was like the higher regarded prospect than Germie Bernard was. But yes, really good all-around player. And just sort of all along, like everyone's, all the draft analysts had him as a top 10 receiver. And he gets drafted as wide receiver 8 in this class. And yet it just seems like the Dynasty community doesn't really get excited about Germie Bernard at all. I'm just wondering if that's maybe a mistake.
Yeah, Bogman, I'm curious what you think. I think I'm a little more hesitant on Bernard than you guys. He still belongs in like the mid-second rounds. I'm not saying that he's overvalued, but I do get a little nervous, not just about the quarterback question mark, but about the fact that the Steelers have invested into both Michael Pittman and DK Metcalf recently. So it's not, unlike Tampa where there was a real path to, well, hey, a year from now, these guys could be gone. And that did play out with Mike Evans. When we're talking about Ibuka, it seems like less likely that those two will be gone a year from now. So that scares me off a little, but Bernard's a good player. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I think the talent rises to the top, right? And that was kind of the comparison that I used in the last show was Ricky Pearsall, right? Like I love Ricky Pearsall going in, but then when he went to the Niners, like, well, okay, you're throwing the ball to Christian McCaffrey more than a second or third wide receiver. You're throwing the ball to Kittle a lot. Ayuk was still there, right? And Jennings was there. Like they just had a lot of options. And I was like, I don't know about Ricky Pearsall. Well, Ricky Pearsall looks like the wide receiver 1 right now. And so it didn't take long. And like Fitzy said, Rodgers wants to throw the ball short and over the middle. Pittman and Metcalf are going to play on a lot deeper routes than Germie Bernard. And I don't know if you guys saw the interview. He started playing football at guard. The guy knows how to block.
Wow.
So, I think it was a blessing in disguise that Philly jumped up and took Mekhi Lemon so the Steelers could take Ihana Chore and then Bernard in the second. I think that was a much better fit than taking Lemon and then like Markel Bell in the second, who would have been the next tackle around. So I'm really happy to land Germie Bernard, the player, just because I know he'll do the dirty work for the Steelers, but I also think there's fantasy opportunities. So I think I am higher on Bernard than you are, Worm, but he's definitely a value right now, regardless of anyhow you cut it.
Yeah, and I'm not low on him. I just think you guys are high.
Right.
A little. We're in the same range for sure.
Agreed.
Bogman, your number 2 value.
Yeah, it's going to be Carson Beck here going to the Cardinals. And I know this isn't everyone's favorite pick. Carson Beck is not even my favorite pick in this class, right? But in a super flex mock where it is that there's just not many options here for us, right? Look at what Carson Beck has to work with right now. They just drafted Jeremiah Love, the best running back in the draft by a wide margin, and I already have him as RB6 in fantasy. You add in Marvin Harrison Jr., who he never really connected with Kyler Murray, but we know there's a lot of talent in there. Trey McBride coming off a career year. They just added Kendrick Bourne. Michael Wilson took a step. They have James Conner and Trey Benson behind Love. They have Reggie Virgil they drafted. And this offense, they improved the O-line. This offense could hum if they have a good quarterback, a decent quarterback. And really what they need is a point guard. They need a Brock Purdy, a guy that came in as Mr. Irrelevant as a 7th round pick, the last pick in the draft. And all he has to do is distribute and not make big mistakes. That's exactly what Carson Beck learned to do at Miami. And he took the Hurricanes to the Natty. So I'm excited to see what he has. The competition here is an older Gardner Minshew and Jacoby Brissett, who is having contract disputes with the Cardinals right now. So we might see Carson Beck ripping a lot of first-team reps quickly in camp, specifically if this contract thing doesn't work out with Brissett and he decides to hold out a little bit. I don't think Brissett's that guy, so I think he'll get back. But Minshew's coming off a knee injury, so I don't know how far along he's going to be either. Plus, he's 30 and is burned out in many other locations. So I think that there is a path to playing time quickly. This could be a lotto ticket that doesn't work out. I think the long-term future for Carson Beck is probably clipboard holder, but we thought the same about Shuck before, and there's not a lot of value in this class. So I think Carson Beck has a lot of upside if he can just not turn the ball over and get that starting job at some point. It's a big if, but if it does hit, this offense is going to be really good for whoever is behind center eventually.
Fitz, did Bogman talk you into it?
No, he did not. So like a couple in Bogman's defense and Carson Beck's defense. I do think he's going to get an audition at some point this season. As we know, Jacoby Brissett isn't a long-term answer. And, strangely, Jacoby Brissett is like demanding to be paid as a starter when this is the only team in the NFL that would be willing to send him out there as a starter, probably.
If Aaron Rodgers retires, the Steelers might trade for him. It would not be shocking.
Yeah, and Beck did start a lot of games, and we have seen quarterbacks surprise us, guys who maybe we didn't love coming out of college, but had a lot of college starts under their belts for major programs playing in Power 5 conferences. And Brock Purdy was obviously one coming out of Iowa State, Mr. Irrelevant, and now he's like an above-average starting quarterback in the NFL. Bo Nix, even though he actually was a first-rounder, I don't think a lot of people loved Bo Nix, but he had started for Auburn and Oregon and winds up being like better than everyone was expecting. So maybe that's what Carson Beck could do. It's just that when he did make those starts for those Power 5 teams, like Beck just melted down under pressure too much. He gets rattled really easily when the protection isn't there. Doesn't offer much rushing. So I wonder, like, even if he did become a starter, would he be more than like a guy who gave you 12 to 14 fantasy points a game? And there's some value to that, I suppose, in super flex, but man, you're definitely looking to upgrade over that. And the hit rate on third round quarterbacks just isn't very good. So I can't really get on board. I've seen a little too much of Carson Beck to get excited, although he does have some, there are times when he'll stick a pretty impressive throw, but man, there are also times when he'll just lose it when he's under fire. So I can't really get on board with this one completely.
One Dynasty rookie value left from each of you. Fitz, who do you have?
It's Eli Stowers from the University of Vanderbilt, and he now goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. And it's not like Eli Stowers is going to be a huge value in drafts this year. But I do want to make the case that Eli Stowers should go ahead of Kenyon Sadiq in rookie drafts, which now I think is kind of the staff consensus at Fantasy Pros. I know Sadiq went 16th overall and Stowers went 54th. But Sadiq went to the Jets, not a great landing spot. They've got Geno Smith at quarterback for Sadiq's rookie year. Jets already had Mason Taylor at tight end. Now, Taysom isn't necessarily going to block Sadiq in any way, but Taylor was a second-round pick last year. He's going to be involved. And then the Jets took another pass catcher later in the first round, wide receiver Omar Cooper, kind of, might be operating in the same area of the field. So Stowers went to the Eagles, better offense, better quarterback. I know people are worried that Jalen Hurts doesn't throw to the middle of the field and didn't under Kevin Patullo, but we got a new play caller with Sean Mannion now. And look, Howie Roseman is one of the best general managers in the league, right? Like, it was a smart general manager saying, I want Eli Stowers on my team. But here's the main point. Like, there's just ample evidence that Stowers is the better player. Sadiq averaged 1.62 yards per route run last season, according to PFF, 1.72 for his college career. Stowers averaged 2.55 yards per route run for Vanderbilt last season, 2.34 for his career. So clearly better in that metric. Sadiq, 19% target rate last season, Stowers 27%. Sadiq, 9% drop rate over his college career, which is pretty bad, quite honestly. Stowers, 3.9% drop rate over his college career. Like, yes, Sadiq is a freak athlete and ran that blazing 4.39 at the combine. Totally crazy for a tight end, but Stowers is fast too, 4.51. And Sadiq, 43.5-inch vertical jump, which is amazing. Eli Stowers, 45.5 inches. So Eli Stowers won the John Mackey Award last year as the best tight end in college football. I think he's the better player than Kenyon Sadiq, and I think he's going to have a better NFL career. And if you're getting Stowers in a rookie draft after Kenyon Sadiq is drafted, I think you're getting a good deal.
Do you weigh at all the age difference, Sadiq being 2 years younger, when you think about the fact that Stowers was more productive last year? He was 2 years older.
Yeah, I mean, that should weigh in a little bit, but I mean, that's kind of the thing. Sadiq is not quite as finished a product as Stowers, but I also don't think Stowers is like, there's room to grow for him too. He was recruited by Texas A&M as a quarterback, not as a tight end. He's only been playing tight end for a few years. So like, there's untapped upside with him also.
Yeah. I worry, and I said this on the other show, my only really worry with Stowers is that blocking is important to a run-heavy team like Philly, and he's so bad at it that it just makes me nervous for what his role is long-term, if he might be kind of continually stuck in the receiving tight end role, but not on the field every down role because of the lack of blocking. Obviously, I've been making the case for a while about them being at very least in the same tier, and the landing spots certainly solidified that. They're going to go within a couple of picks each other in most drafts, I would imagine.
It's fair, and I think now with the trend toward multiple tight end sets, more 12, more 13, I feel like teams don't mind as much having one of those tight ends not be a premium blocker. And I would also kind of push back against the idea that Kenyon Sadiq is like any sort of plus blocker at tight end. Better than Stowers, but also not a great blocker himself who's, you feel great about having in line.
Agreed. He's not like Gronk as a blocker. He's just a lot better than Stowers. It's just that Stowers is bad. It's not that Sadiq is amazing.
Right.
Now the staff consensus, Bogman, has become Stowers over Sadiq. The general consensus in the industry on ECR is still Sadiq over Stowers. How do you see it?
Stowers over Sadiq, no question to me. You have the better quarterback. You're going to be missing a lot of targets from A.J. Brown here, so you're going to have to fill him in between some of these other players. And it's two rookies. It's Mekhi Lemon and Eli Stowers. So I think Stowers can push Goddard pretty quickly. I think he'll be on the field very fast. We kind of had reservations about Harold Finn, and I did last season. Like Njoku was the guy there, right? But he pushed Njoku aside very quickly and started producing immediately. And say what we want about Stowers, but the production has always been there. So, and he's still learning the position, as Fitz said it. So I think it's pretty clearly Stowers. Mason Taylor's a receiving tight end as well that they drafted the year before the Jets did. So it may take Sadiq just as much time to get on the field as it does Stowers. So it wouldn't really be shocking to me. And they don't have their solution at quarterback right now. And we think it's in the draft next year, but where the Jets going to be picking, who is that quarterback, and they have a history of blowing it. So there's a lot of evidence stacked against the Jets to find success for a guy like Sadiq.
Both of these guys, I think you're hoping for a year or two breakout if you're drafting them. Neither of them are you thinking is going to be, you don't go into,
you don't draft one of these guys and start them this year at all.
No, these are definitely both like picks for the future for different reasons, but I think both of them clearly fall into that category. Okay. Bogman, let's take it home with your number one value.
Just in terms of value, I really love Emmett Johnson going to the Chiefs. He led FBS in yards from scrimmage per game last season. I know they went out and they invested in Ken Walker, and he will get the majority of the carries. I'm not pushing back against that, but he needs another back with him. He has consistently missed games if he has to be the main guy. And when they really split him and Charbonnet last year, he stayed healthy for the entire season. That is the secret to keeping Ken Walker on the field. But let's not forget that Walker just made the deep playoff run, and they really relied on him in that playoff run, specifically in the Super Bowl, to carry them to their championship here. So we saw what that did to Saquon last season, right? That deep playoff run and all those extra touches. It could easily do the same thing to Walker, and it wouldn't be shocking. So on the roster currently, Brashard Smith is the only guy that is remaining. Hunt is gone. They can re-sign him again. It seems like he waits until after camp gets going to sign every year. He could come back. It wouldn't be shocking, but Pacheco is gone. He's in Detroit now. So, and I think what you really saw last season, specifically with the Chiefs, was they were predictable. When Brashard Smith is out there, he had more receptions than Pacheco or Hunt, and he had like over 130 fewer snaps on passing downs than either one of those guys. Their offense just became very predictable, specifically in the run game. If Hunt is out there, they're going to run. If Brashard Smith is out there, they're going to pass. Now they're going to have a guy in Ken Walker and two guys that can catch back there. Emmett Johnson, I believe, had over 100 receptions in his collegiate career. So this is a dude that can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can do a little bit of everything. I don't care that his draft capital was so low. Just get me in the building in Kansas City. If you make that roster, you're probably going to have a role, and I think he's a better back than Brashard Smith today. So I think he's your number two right now on this team, or at least after camp he will be. And I think Ken Walker needs somebody next to him. And I think Emmett Johnson is going to be a very undervalued player going into drafts. And I think he holds a ton of upside.
Where is the right spot to be targeting him?
I have him in that group of running backs with Coleman. I have him right behind Coleman. So Coleman is my third back. Emmett Johnson is my fourth.
Fitz, what do you think?
I have Emmett Johnson ranked RB3 and 15 overall in Superflex. Wow. So
This should be your pick, Fitzy.
It should be, man. I totally agree with you. Like I like the landing spot, even though Kenneth Walker is there. But Kenneth Walker was a rotational back. I know our last recollection of Kenneth Walker was just as this, dynamo workhorse in the playoffs. And he was great at that, but I don't think any team wants him to be that for an entire year, or he's just not going to hold up. He's a guy who's had some durability questions, but I think Emmett Johnson is better than Brashard Smith. I think he's better than Amari DiMercato. Great run pass threat at Nebraska. And if he ever needed to handle a load, he kind of reminds me of Chase Brown, who had that mammoth workload at Illinois in his final season. Emmett Johnson averaged over 20 carries a game and 24.8 touches a game in his final year at Nebraska. So even though he's not the biggest dude in the world, he can hold up to a heavy workload.
92 collegiate receptions, by the way.
Yeah, I love this call.
He's was it 20th in ECR right now? So you guys both handful of spots higher. And he's RB6, which I think is the interesting part. He's in ECR. He is behind not only the obvious two, he's behind Jonah Coleman. He's also behind both Penn State guys in ECR, Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. So you guys, even if it's not that wide a gap overall, there's a small gap. It is a fairly decent change from ECR positionally if you're looking for a running back.
Dynasty leagues are PPR leagues, and has Katron Allen shown any pass catching aptitude whatsoever? That's the problem.
And the worst part about that is they have Rashad White and Krosky Merritt there to catch passes over Katron Allen. So yeah, I'd go with Emmett Johnson over him.
Yeah. All right, we'll go ahead and wrap things up there. Like I said, we've had a ton of content come out this week. So if you missed any of those shows, please go check it out. We have, winners and losers, rankings movers. We did a 5-round mock draft. We obviously have today's show. We've done some lives as well on Discord. So a whole lot out there. If you're looking to prep for rookie drafts or just kind of think about Dynasty more here coming out of the NFL draft. So appreciate everybody kind of sticking with us through this busy week. For Fitz and Bogman, I'm Ryan Wormeli. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.